And I'm just wondering if we're ever going to see it, because we've seen that at running back position for quite some time, and we're kind of seeing it at the receiver position now. I'm wondering if we're ever going to see it at the quarterback spot. And, right now, Kyler Murray's kind of on that clock. I had Steve Keim on the show over an hour ago. There's nowhere he couldn't have been more, adamant about not trading him and then open to paying him. Where do you think that actually is in between those lines right now, Ian?
As far as just how willing they are to pay him?
Yeah, and then at what freight, where does that come in? Like, what's that number now that another quarterback has gotten fully guaranteed over $230 million?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so interesting because, like, what Steve Keim doesn't want to do is to be like, well, we think he's awesome, but not quite as good as a bunch of other teams have. Like, you never want to do that. It's just hard to, you have to assess a value to it. So my guess is he gets somewhere in the early 40 range, with a chance to make it to Deshaun. But, it's one problem is he has, his limited playoff experience, limited playoff. I don't think he has a playoff win yet, right?
That's correct.
And so, like, he's going to get better, and he's taken this team to a great place, but he also doesn't have a ton of leverage because he's probably not getting traded, clearly not getting traded. And if he was, it was going to be before the draft. So my guess is they'll figure on some sort of figure before training camp, but this is definitely one of the harder ones to do. Whereas, like, we talk about Lamar Jackson's contract, which I don't think is coming anytime soon. Like, he's a former MVP who's awesome. Like, he's probably going to get all of the money. With Kyler, maybe it's a little different, but we'll see how close he gets.
And how much, before I let you go, we kind of had this discussion on Saturday on live television as well. Might as well have it here. How much more complicated does it make things for the Ravens, planning purposes, salary cap massaging purposes, to have Lamar not want to take the bag right now and maybe even go franchise tag year to franchise tag year until he feels that he's comfortable accepting the Ravens' generationally enriching contract offer? How does that affect things based on what you know?
It's weird because on one hand, it's great. Like, cheap again this year. Fifth-year option is cheap. Franchise tag's pretty cheap. So, like, all right, yeah, that's right. So this year's going into his fifth-year option. Right, so cheap, and then tags are cheap, and then the next tag is cheap. But so cash-wise, it's okay. Cap-wise, it sucks because, the franchise tag hits the cap all at once. So, like, you can't spread that out like you normally would. But, you have a couple years of cheap. That's kind of not the problem. The problem is, at some point, if he gets free and continues to stay healthy and stays at this level, how high is it going to be? Like, you will have gotten a discount, which is awesome, but at some point you have to pay him. And so, like, that's really the issue is it looms over you that, like, if he does this, if you don't pay him, like, I don't know, $60 million a year or whatever, who knows, somebody might. So that's where it gets really hard, but not just right now.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.